Hello, 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 hello. Hello, YouTube. Hello. Hello, Facebook. Hello. Hello, Instagram. Hello. I'm hoping everyone can see me pretty well. I'm so excited that we're here together tonight. Welcome, welcome. If this is your first ever time with us, welcome to Soul Creations, the Soul Family live show and podcast. I am going to start our audio. So this is officially happening. We are on Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube, and we're recording because I want you guys to be able to have access to everything we're going to talk about tonight. Welcome to the Soul Family live show and podcast. I am so excited that you're here, and I'm your host, Sinikka. If you have not heard yet, our favorite phrase, which is forever, I choose you. On Instagram, it looks backwards, and so does YouTube, but on Facebook, it looks right. So Facebook, you guys, I guess, are preferred. That's amazing. So our favorite phrase, forever I choose you, is now on a cozy sweatshirt to make for a tangible, significant tool that you can use. And they're now available on our website. So if you want one, you can hop over to the Soul Creations Photography shop, and I'm so excited for you to be able to do that because the goal of these significant tools is to wear as a daily reminder so that you and your beloved and others around you, as you wear them at home and on the go, can remember to choose their spouse. Choose. It's a choice to love your spouse well. So I want you to be able to say forever, I choose you as a daily thing again and again. So the sweatshirt reminds us that we're here forever. We're here. We are here for the forever, and we're here for the long haul. If you want one, you can get one on the website. They're $34.99, and they're really cozy. And if you want them to be extra cozy, totally recommend getting one size up. So since we are here for the long haul and for the forever, it is time to dive in to what we're talking about today, which is how to respect your spouse during a conversation when you feel disrespected. I know that's kind of a thing. I am sure I'm not the only one who's that's happened to, where you feel like your spouse isn't listening and you are not a fan of that. You feel disrespected during a conversation. So I, first of all, before we jump into anything else, want to let you know that if your spouse isn't listening to you during a conversation, if they lose focus during a conversation, it may not be about you at all, and they may not be meaning to disrespect you. So that's just a FYI. Now, the reason I'm thinking about this, and it's kind of on my mind, is because we recently realized that my husband, Alan, and I both lose focus if we're distracted. So even if you're hearing my little guy in the background right now, welcome to real life. Okay, if we lose focus during a conversation, it's usually because we're distracted by something, and that could be distracted by literally anything you can think of. For us right now, what we found out is that's being distracted by our little one, John David. He's a year old, or by music, or by phone notifications. And I'm 100% sure we're not the only one being distracted, only couple being distracted by phone notifications. So recently we have found this out because on Friday, Alan woke up at 5:15. We are early risers because our baby is 2, and he went to go work out. After he came back from working out, he jumped in the shower and everything, but the moment he gets back, Johnny and I are already up in the midst of like some awesome morning playtime, and it's really exciting. Usually that playtime includes a ton of music, and the exact same thing usually happens when Alan arrives home from work. Usually we are in intense play mode. It's really exciting. And though, what we found out recently was that in the morning, we had played music for such a long time during playtime. Alan was getting ready for work, and finally I was like, I'm going to shut this off. I'm going to just shut this off. We're done with music, done with playtime. And Alan said, oh my gosh, wait a second. I just realized I haven't said anything in like the hour and a half that we've been here together in the same home, like getting ready for the day. Like, how insane is that? That's so confusing. That's so confusing that music is what actually hindered our conversation from flowing. Oh my goodness, it looks like we lost Facebook. I don't even know why. Okay, we're gonna see if we can get back on there. And while we're working this out, we are also gonna continue. So hopefully we can go live with Facebook again. I'm so sorry for the people who lost us. That is a bummer. Okay, we're back on Facebook and we're with everybody else too. So that is awesome. All right, so music was one of the ways that our conversation was being hindered, our one-on-one, like actual talking to each other, that was being hindered. So another one is our little guy. John David is usually awake when Alan is awake and asleep when Alan is asleep. And me too. Like there's just no way around it. Our baby is always there until really late at night, and usually we're exhausted by that time. And when we finally get him settled down for the night, usually our phones are starting to go and give us tons of notifications of what's happening on Facebook and text message. And every single one of those notifications makes it feel like there is someone who wants our attention. And just like when you have a physical person in your space and that physical person is between you and your spouse and you're like, honey, I can't talk to you right now because I'm doing playtime, like John needs attention. This person needs attention. It's the same when you are with your phone. If your phone notifications are going off, there's a person vying for your attention. And so it makes it really hard to have a complete conversation with your spouse, with the person who is nearest and dearest to your heart. So these are three things that Alan and I realized. We realized that when we lose focus in a conversation, not trying to be disrespectful at all, it's generally because there's a distraction. And that distraction can be either phone notifications or an actual person, whether that's a guest in your house or a child or a family member or something who's actually in the middle of the conversation with you, or music. I love music, but music can sometimes make it really hard for a person to concentrate on a conversation because they're listening to the music. Now, what I want you guys to know is that when you can, I highly recommend that you control any like one-on-one quality time, uninterrupted attention for your spouse type of conversations to be post-baby, post-music, and post-phone. Usually those conversations happen later at night, like really good quality time. I'm sure you guys are all aware, happen later at night unless you're completely exhausted. And if you're completely exhausted later at night, then it makes it really hard to have that quality time after everybody is out of your house. So when you can't control those conversations, you can't control who's really exactly in your house and how long they're there for, then I recommend you create boundaries so that you can make space during your day. So that might mean when you and your spouse are prepping food in the kitchen and your little ones are like having independent playtime and like you're there and you're doing something because it's during the day, but you're still able to have a minute where you look at each other in the eye and you hold hands, or you give a hug and you say, hey, I love you. How was your day? And just have a second for uninterrupted conversation right there. Like that's making space. Or perhaps what we're going to do now, when Alan comes home from work, a couple minutes before, he'll kind of give me like a heads up when he's on his way home. That's what we do. But he will give me like, okay, we're still going on audio. He'll give me a heads up, and then Johnny and I will kind of start to quiet down so that we can prepare ourselves to be like, Dad's coming home. This is so great. Let's be excited about that. And the music is way lowered. So we're making space in order to reattach and have that one-on-one time for him and Johnny as well as him and me, so that the second he comes in the door, he is like, yeah, it is awesome you're home. We care about this and we see you and we're excited about it. So either you can turn music low, or you can find space in the kitchen if you're prepping food when you have all of your family there as well. The third thing I'm thinking of right now is that phone notifications, you can put a do not disturb on for like an hour, and you can shut them to silent for a little bit. Like if you are home and nothing is an emergency, like the people who are online or the notifications that you're getting are not an emergency. Those people who want your attention are not the person that's right in front of you, your spouse, who needs your attention. The people who want your attention are different than the person who needs your attention. That one-on-one attention with your spouse is so critical. And the conversations, the quality conversations that you have together on a daily basis are so needed that you guys, it's so important to take time to create the space in order to have that one-on-one undivided attention type of conversation. So what I've noticed is that when I feel like my spouse isn't listening and I feel disrespected, it's because the conversations are generally starting at the wrong time. And those conversations are either I'm on the floor with Johnny playing and it's everybody's going crazy, or everybody's getting home from work or school, or music is on loud, or I am completely exhausted or really hungry because finally, like, Johnny's asleep and I'm like just totally tired. So when it's those wrong times and the conversations start, I can feel like I'm losing focus. I can't pay attention, and I'm accidentally disrespecting my spouse because I'm distracted, because I'm not 100% there either. So when you get into a moment like that, where you know the conversation has begun at the wrong time, but it's still important to have, those are the moments where it's totally necessary to say, hey, babe, let's talk about this just a little bit later today. I want to have this conversation with you, but I'm totally distracted by all the things around me right now because of all the stuff that's vying for our attention. And I want to have 100% undivided attention on you. So let's pause this conversation for a little bit later. And you can invite your spouse to do the exact same thing. You can say, hey, you know what? I know that you are probably super distracted right now because of all the things vying for your attention. So how about we pause this conversation, and a little bit later, you and I can really have quality one-on-one time. Because guys, that's important. It's so important. And here's what I want you to remember. I want you in those moments where you feel like you're in the conversation and you're being disrespected by your spouse because he or she isn't listening. I want you to do what Blockbuster always told us to do, and that was be kind and rewind. I want you to be kind to your spouse and give them grace, because in that moment, something big could be distracting them, whether it's physically in front of them or something like mentally on their mind. So be kind to them, because there could be something really big going on, and rewind. What around them in their space could be distracting them? What is it that they might be needing to take away from the situation in order to fully give you their focus so you can tell your story? Because your story is just as important as their story. When you have one-on-one conversations and your spouse is distracted, it's humble hour. Like, just humble your heart and ask about their day, because they might be distracted about something they need to talk about. So be kind and rewind. If you find that you are in the middle of a story and your spouse has lost focus, okay? And the second thing I want you to remember is to clear the runway before takeoff. We've got two companies helping us out, all of the airports and the airplanes and Blockbuster. So be kind and rewind. And the second, clear the runway before takeoff. Make sure that all distractions are away and you can have an undivided attention moment with your spouse before you tell your important story. Important stories might be that fun thing that you and your child did that day. It might be that cool conversation you had with your coworker. Or maybe that's a story that's just not as important and you don't want like full attention. Sure, go ahead and share it like when all the stuff's going on. It's not a big deal. I've got stories like that all day. But the stories that I care about and I want to tell Alan, you know what? Like, Johnny and I had a great day because we saw a school bus. But can I tell you, school buses are amazing. And today, this is a perfect example. I wanted to have a one-on-one conversation about something that seemed really small because it was a big deal to me and John David. And so I waited. I waited until I could have that one-on-one undivided attention with Alan so that we could pause and have that conversation and be able to tell the full story. The full story. So clear the runway before takeoff. And if the runway is not cleared, be kind and rewind. Now, I want you to kind of think to yourself, we're going to give you homework again. It's a really important thing to really take time to reflect and work with your spouse on these changes and on these habits, because that is where greatness happens, my friends. Your relationship together is a two-person thing. It takes two to tango. So because of that, I have questions for you, and we're going to put these in the show notes too. So when was the last time that you lost focus during a conversation with your spouse and what was distracting you. It's not just them. I am 100% sure that your spouse has felt disrespected by you because you weren't listening at one time too. I'm 100% sure. Second question, when does your spouse lose focus? And what may be distracting them? That's when I realized the music thing on Friday. It was because kind of day after day, I started to notice like Alan kind of, he isn't, aware, of what's going on in our conversations. He's not fully able to talk when there's loud music on. Okay, that's interesting. I never really thought about that before, but it's actually a thing, of course. So that was me thinking and reflecting, why is it that we haven't had a conversation for an hour and a half? And it took me time to realize and really think through, how is my spouse experiencing this morning? Really. So think about your spouse. Think about you, think about your spouse, and then when during the day should fun conversations and serious conversations actually take place? If you are finding yourself or your spouse losing focus when the conversation takes place at a certain time, then it might be time to pause that conversation for a better time during the day. I want you to think about when your conversations take place and at what time. Good, deep, one-on-one, undivided attention conversations with quality time really are able to take place, because that's where we want gold to happen, my friends. We want you to be able to daily stand in front of your spouse and say, I am here for you 100%. Today, I choose you, and I'm giving you undivided attention because you and me are here forever together, babe. That's important, you guys. All right, your takeaway. Here's what I really want you to do. This is a challenge for you this week. When your spouse loses focus during a conversation, because it's going to happen, I want you to respect them by asking yourself and or them, what is the distraction? And is there a better time to have this conversation? And I'm really excited for you to do that, because it's going to help you reflect in the moment and start thinking about how you can take time and carve out better time in your day to have better conversations with your spouse that make you and your spouse leaving that conversation feeling so full of love for one another. Friend, you've got this. Get out there and hug your person. Hug the person you chose to be with forever and let them know that today and every day you choose them. Also, get yourself or the one you love a sweatshirt to remind you both of that. And you can find those in the Soul Creations Photography online shop. I'm really excited about it. Also, Alan and I went to a marriage retreat this past weekend. If you are married, it's an incredible one. It's called Beyond the Ring, and it's in Kokomo, Indiana. And if you have not been to one, it actually was awesome. It was like a cozy retreat house in the woods, it seemed like, and it was so great. It was personal, but not too personal. There was a lot of time for discussion between you and your spouse to talk through what you need to talk through. And there were a lot of great reflection questions and topics that we've never actually heard anyone else talk about. It was wonderful. And I highly recommend you guys go to a marriage retreat. Also, if you happen to be married with a baby, your first child, highly, highly recommend it, because this was the first weekend that Alan and I had completely away from our baby. And we got to sleep in, quote unquote, which means not waking up at 5:15 every morning. And it was wonderful. It was wonderful to be able to have a moment to ourselves to say, hey, I choose you and I still choose you. And I am going to choose you every day, no matter how busy it looks or how hectic it gets. I'm here with you. You are my person and we're here together forever. So I'm so pumped. Highly recommend marriage retreats if you are married and just had your first baby. Do not wait to have at least a night or two away to fully be able to focus back onto your spouse and say, forever, babe, I choose you. Guys, have a wonderful week. I can't wait to tell you more about all the things I learned. There's just so much great stuff. And in the future, I'm thinking we might be having some guests on the show. So if there's anybody that you would love to hear from, let me know. All right, you guys, have an awesome day. Instagram, I'm going to figure out while I turn off YouTube and Facebook. How in the world I turn this into IGTV?